for those who don't know, Miss Maddie Roberts is the interview maven of the ZenCleanz company. She interviews all of the users about their testimonials and their wonderful experiences with the enzymes and how it's impacted their life. And now we're finally circling back to the woman in charge behind the scenes who makes the magic happen.
Yay.
It's pretty powerful. So, what I want to ask you first is how many ZenCleanz interviews have you done? How many people have you interviewed?
Oof. Um, at this point, like probably close to 30. Very close to 30. It's like getting there. It's like getting close to 30. And there's definitely quite a few that are scheduled for a couple of months from now once they've completed a rainbow cleanse or just when people feel ready to start sharing, which is
Wow. And you've worked for the company for a year?
yeah, so about a year. Of course, when I started using the product, I just immediately started sharing it with people and sharing it on social media and just being like so excited about what this could do for not only myself, but other people. So I would say like I really started doing things for ZenCleanz back in May of 2021, maybe even earlier than that. I just started sharing and posting and taking before and after pictures and experimenting in different ways you can use the liquid enzymes and just different things, which is I think what attracted me to start working with Daniel and working with ZenCleanz.
Wow. So then at this point, this interview is the first week of September 2022. So you've worked for ZenCleanz for well over a year now then.
Yeah, yeah. Been
Wow.
it's been beautiful.
How did you find ZenCleanz?
Oh, so funny thing. One of the affiliates, Josh Mason, known as the Detox Dudes, he posted it on his social media, and before he'd even like shared anything about what ZenCleanz was, I just like saw it in the back of his photo, and I looked it up and reached out to Daniel and immediately bought stuff. And then we got on a phone call, and we just started getting the ball rolling of this is definitely something that I could just feel was going to change my life. Because when I found ZenCleanz, I was sort of at a plateau. I had been sort of detoxing on and off for about a year and really hadn't made much progress. I still woke up every day and felt like absolute crap. And I just didn't know what else was going to happen. So when I sort of sneakily found this in the back of a photo on Instagram, I just knew there was something I knew that this would be what shifted my whole healing journey. And when I got that first rainbow cleanse and I started cleaning out my intestines, that second day I saw the mucoid plaque come out and I was just like, oh my God. Like I literally exclaimed. I yelled out with excitement and shock and a little bit of disgust, actually a lot of bit of disgust, because I'm like, what? That's been sitting in me for this long? Like how has that been in there? Like how did I not know? I didn't know I had 8 pounds to lose, and throughout all the cleanses that I've done, I've probably lost like 15 pounds of
Mhm.
just fecal matter that's been in my gut. So that's kind of a long-winded answer about how I found it.
No,
Just kind of
that's a perfect answer. So
started.
then your very first was a rainbow cleanse then.
Yeah, I started with the rainbow cleanse, and
Wow.
I really, honestly, I would say I started with the Meta B. I started drinking Meta B, and I'd had a collapsed arch in my left foot from ballet years and years ago, and immediately after I drank the Meta B, an hour later, I had a massive pain in the bottom of my foot, and I was like, "Ooh, that's not good. I only get this when I've like been walking in really bad shoes or like done something to my foot." And so I asked Daniel about it, and he said, no, I think that's bringing blood flow to your wound that maybe has never healed. And something about hearing that just like blew my mind. I'm like, that makes sense because that's exactly what it feels like. And now I don't have pain in my left foot ever. So it's like, what the, what happened? It's crazy.
That's that's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Wow. So when you found the company, so your history is you're a ballet dancer who has, I never pronounce it correctly, Aeon Delos.
Ehlers Danlos. Yeah.
Ah, wow,
Ehlers
one day I'll get
Danlos.
that right. So, for people who don't know, that's what is known as the contortionist syndrome, turn of the century carnival. We used to think that those people were incredibly talented, but what they did was they had an autoimmune condition that, how would you best describe it?
Oof, man. I mean, Ehlers-Danlos is really categorized as a connective tissue disorder, and there are many varieties and categories in that type, that overlay, that umbrella type of Ehlers-Danlos. And I would say I had the hypermobility type, but at this point, because I've done so much cleansing and so much healing, I don't even resonate with that anymore. I feel like my body just is doing what it needs to do. I'm hypermobile. I know I'm hypermobile, but at this point, identifying with something that kept me sort of in a loop
Mm.
really kept me away from finding healing, you know? And I think that's the whole point of ZenCleanz is stepping away from, oh, well, my liver is overburdened. Oh, well, my intestines, I can't digest. It's like, that's the whole point, is to let go of those things that we don't have those identifications anymore. So I would say at one point I did resonate with having Ehlers-Danlos, but now I just think I'm a really hypermobile, flexible person that had a lot of trauma stored in her body. And that is a residual effect of not having proper emotional regulation, self soothing, and
Mm.
toxin buildup. And, I think we can let go of the labels that we put on things. And we truly can find that healing based on that, because all of a sudden we're not identifying with something. And then our body's like, oh, we don't have this. Oh, well, we can let that go. I've found some really crazy responses to not telling myself, oh, I have dysautonomia. Oh, I have SIBO. Oh, I have all these things. It's like, well, I've
Mhm.
had some imbalances. And that's the way I will describe it, is I've had some imbalances and I've had some serious toxicity, and I will admit that, and borderline liver failure. But that's not, I'm not identifying with that, because it's unchanging, and we're always evolving and changing.
That was the greatest answer ever. So, when you were coming from a place of hypermobility and you had what could be considered advanced scoliosis for your age, will you please tell our viewers about that process of your experience with your spine
Mm-hmm.
through the process of ZenCleanz?
Yes. So I was technically diagnosed with, I like to say that, diagnosed, because everything is relative, but I was actually diagnosed with pretty severe scoliosis when I was 13. 13. Yeah, I was 13, and progressively was put into a pretty rigid back brace for 2.5 years in high school. So I was coming into my first day in high school with a back brace under my clothes, had to get a whole new set of clothes just to be able to walk in and not feel like embarrassed of what I'm wearing. Um, and I was still dancing at this time. I was dancing about 18 to 24 hours a week, so still a lot, but I had to wear the back brace for about 18 to 24 hours a day. I mean, it was never 24 hours because I was dancing about 4 or 5 hours a day. So I would just take it off just for ballet. And it still got worse. Like, it still didn't keep the curve from continuing to grow. I mean, it's probably stopped it a little bit, but from what I know now about how the body holds toxicity, like, unless you're addressing those underlying issues, everything's going to continue to get worse. And I've recently learned that a lot of scoliosis has to do with liver toxicity, because your liver's on the right side of your body. And as your liver gets more and more toxic, it is enlarging, and it's getting larger and larger and larger, just to combat all of the different junk that's in there that's getting stuck. And as that's getting larger, it's pushing on the lungs, and the lungs are compressing too much CO2. And the CO2 is supposed to be leaving the lungs, and otherwise it's really, really toxic. So the lungs have to expand in order to not compress other internal organs that are going to cause, like, severe problems. So the lungs have to organize, and then the ribs have to reorganize themselves. And then, of course, the spine moves based on all that pressure to the right side of the body. So with that being said, the liver is a main thing with scoliosis. And I've noticed a major change with the 13 liver cleanses that I've done at this point. And, I still have a ways to go. And I know it and I can feel it. but I've made such a huge progress. I've never been able to sit with my shoulders looking straight like this. They've always had some sort of imbalance, or you've always been able to see it when I've leaned over in some ways. And I've shared in the Telegram chat a few times some of the photos that I've taken that are just remarkable to see the change that can happen after a liver cleanse. And as Daniel's always saying, like, it's a filter, you're clearing, you have to clear consistently. Otherwise, it's just going to continue to sort of build up. You can't just do like a one and done, like, oh, I did one liver cleanse. Oh, I feel better. It's like, no, you got to do this consistently, which is why I've done 13 of them, going on 14 in the next couple of weeks. And, I'm still not there. Like, it's going to take some time. And you have to give your liver some love, because if you've had some severe issues, lots of build up, it's going to take a long time to allow that to be released. It took many years for that to build up. Like, it's going to take some time to release. So I've just noticed pain decrease, the severity of the curve. I've seen photos of my back and been like, where's my curve? I don't see it. I don't feel it. I don't have the shoulder pain in the same ways. Of course, it comes and goes, but it's not nearly the same pain that I've ever had in my life. Like, I don't have the level of pain that I once had, ever. Like, I've never felt it since I started ZenCleanz. And in fact, it just gets easier and easier and easier. Each liver cleanse I do, each cleanse I do, just each day I become more centered in what I'm supposed to be doing and what my body is asking for. It gets better. And I personally don't think I've had a flare up of symptoms since I started sort of cleaning out my body in a natural way by feeding that life versus fighting disease.
Oh, that's so well put. I hope that you will intersperse this interview with the photos of the before and after of your spine.
Absolutely.
It's so powerful. How has ZenCleanz changed your way of healing and viewing healing, i.e., having been a dancer and having gone through the medical system and hoped that they would be able to help you? Because a great many of us, of course, as you know, who have dealt with chronic illness, we got into a circular trap with the medical system. So having been on both sides of the fence and having very much wanted to get well, how has working with ZenCleanz for this last year and had so many of your symptoms remediate themselves, how do you feel now about healing?
Oh man, when I started healing, quote unquote, when I was 14 years old, and put on many different drugs in order to help heal my body, heal the pain that I had in my body. I always thought that there was going to be something to fix the pain, something to make it all go away, or make myself feel better, make myself be able to manage it differently. So I had this mindset of always seeking something and never feeling satisfied, or never feeling heard or seen or appreciated for what I was experiencing, because no one else could understand what I was going through. So I was put on a lot of different drugs, and all of which I believed were going to do something. Hence why I had 18 different drugs kind of circulating through my body for several years. I had a literal padlocked box when I went to college with like 15 different pill bottles in it. And I was put on, I would consider it one step below an opiate. But honestly, I think it is pretty dangerous. And it's called tramadol. And I was put on that when I was 15, when I went into high school, and I was wearing my back brace and just in pain, sitting in class every single day. And I became massively addicted to that. So my process of cleansing was, oh, well, this is going to help me. Like, this is going to heal me because it's helping me so far. And sort of slowly became more of a, oh, well, this is making my mental space better. And this is also helping me deal with my pain, even if the pain was still bad. So it became more and more and more, until by the time I got to college, I was taking 15 of the 50 milligram tablets every single day, and drinking with them, and taking a benzodiazepine, and just causing all sorts of dis-ease in my body that I didn't think was ever going to be there. I thought, oh, well, this is fine. Like, I'll deal with it. I don't know what was going through my head when I thought that that was a good idea. And I don't really know, but I feel like we learn through mistakes. And there was just a lot of points where I woke up the next morning and when I was in school and was like, I probably shouldn't have woken up today because of all the things that I put in my body the day before.
Wow.
I still had this idea of this is helping me cleanse, this is helping me heal. I had no idea that this was even a problem. It wasn't until about 2019 that a friend of mine was like, Maddie, I think you had an addiction. And I was extremely triggered by that word because I'd never once thought of it as an addiction because I had been so consumed by, oh, well, this is helping me heal in some way. And I didn't realize that it actually had run and consumed my life for 7 years. And it wasn't until that pivotal moment that I realized I'd had a pretty significant addiction. And I'd since stopped the medication at that point because I just knew something in my body was like, you need to stop this right now, which is pretty much what I did. But I never like fully got into processing that had happened. So in 2019, everything started shifting. I started realizing, oh, well, I need to change a lot of these things. I need to change my diet. So I went paleo and I started reading nutrition labels and started juicing and different things like that. So throughout that process of my cleansing experience started to change. It started to become less of what something could do for me versus like, how could I help my body do something for me? Because I knew I could feel something was wrong. I could feel something had been wrong from taking so many drugs for so long and thinking that they were going to help me, thinking that taking Adderall, Valium, and Tramadol were going to fix the problems that I had. And wasn't until I found ZenCleanz in October of 2020. Was it October of 2020? Yeah, it was October of 2020 that I realized, oh, wow, like what is the process of using food as medicine? I'd been using food as medicine, but really wasn't making any progress. I still had all these imbalances and all sorts of problems. So once again, my ideal of cleansing shifted. And when I did that first rainbow cleanse, I got through. By the end, I did the liver cleanse, and I realized, oh wow, like everything can change. Everything can change when you change what's going on up here. When you realize that your body is a healing vessel and that you have the possibility to heal if you truly believe that it's possible. And it's more than just that. It's really just giving yourself that love by this. These are just not just cleanses. These are not just cleanses. These are things that can help reset people's lives. And I've seen it happen firsthand. I've seen it happen with myself and people that I work with, and just being able to offer them a new lease on life and give them something that maybe they've never experienced before. While also believing that, cleansing is not just an end all be all. It's an ongoing process of self-love and returning to yourself throughout that process.
I think these are some of the best answers I've ever heard. Well, I'm serious. That's why I was so excited to do this interview, because you have a vastly unique perspective. A lot of us that have been through chronic illness are chronic illness survivors, as I like to say. We come to be coaches, we come to be stewards, but you found it at such a young age. Then you started working with the company, you started proving it to yourself, coming from such a drastic story at such a young age. And now you're coaching. How do you feel about coaching?
Oh man, it's been quite a journey because I've always known that I was meant to be some type of healer. Whether it was, I went to school to be a doctor and I got to chemistry and was like, oh, this is not happening. It's not going to happen. I'm just going to, and then I got through like physics and barely passed physics because I had been having a friend help me on every single homework and test. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do this very well. And I just knew that something wasn't quite right. Didn't really quite resonate with it. And I don't know, it just became an evolution of not trusting the medical system because of all the pain that I'd been through and all of the nobody had been listening to me and been just putting more drugs in my body. And of course, I could have said no to all of those things, but I didn't know at that point. I just knew that something needed to be fixed and something needed
Mhm.
help, but I didn't know how to get that help. I didn't have the idea that alternate healing and holistic cleansing or nutrition and functional medicine, like those things do work when you give your body the right opportunity to heal. So for me, when I started coaching, I waited a while to fully understand the product, fully understand my process first before I can share it with other people. And
Mhm.
I'm still learning. I'm still doing a lot of coaching just because I want experience, and I'm not charging people for that because I want to have the experience of, okay, well, I've guided this amount of people through this rainbow cleanse, or I've guided this amount of people through things that now I've done this for. I didn't start coaching until, gosh, until early or end of last year is really when I started coaching. So I waited like a while before I
Yeah.
started sharing anything with other people. I started just walking through people through it, but not in the way that I'm doing it now. And now I feel like, because I've had experience doing that, that it feels right to have people pay me to coach because I've had so much experience. I probably have spent at this point like $30,000 on enzymes. Not even
Yeah.
between my
Wellness
boyfriend,
is
between my
expensive.
boyfriend and between Rob and I think we both have spent together about 30,000, and we probably each consumed 20 or 30 bottles of liquid enzymes, and I've done 12 liver cleanses and 11 intestinal cleanses. So I like
11.
stopped. I haven't stopped. It's been a whole thing.
That's that's incredible. Wow. So my next question is, how has interviewing people impacted your understanding of humanity and its capacity to heal?
Ooh, yes, I love that question. I think, you know, it's been a journey for me to sort of step into my power in interviewing people, because my first couple interviews I watched them back and I was like, hey, all right, I definitely look nervous, I sound nervous, I went too fast, and people seem a little like, okay, what's going on? And it's been sort of an evolution of working with the person that is coming on. If they're a little more quiet and reserved, not asking them all these crazy questions and giving them all of my crazy Sagittarius energy, and meeting them where they're at, and everyone's going to have a very different experience. And if they're not super expressive in how their experience went, working with it, giving them a space to feel comfortable to share. And I think that's the whole point of doing these interviews, is that they're not just to talk about the product, like how your experience was. That's part of it, but really is, how has your experience with cleansing been? Not just
Mm.
about ZenCleanz. Like, what is your story? How do you want to show up? And how would you like other people to see your experience? Does not just have to be about ZenCleanz. If you've done one intestinal and the rest of it has been acupuncture and nutrition and juicing, like, amazing. That's the great part of learning what humanity wants and what they're seeking, because everyone has a very different cleansing experience and everyone's journey is extremely different. And having that variety of interviews and people sharing their stories, whether they're seasoned water fasters or cleansers or coaches or doctors, or people that are just administrative assistants that are just trying to feel a little better. Everyone is going through their own journey as it's meant for them. And if they feel called to share their experience with someone else, i.e., sharing it on our social media channels so that other people can relate to their experience, that's amazing. It's not just about the product. It's about, how has your experience been? What is your story? How did you find this product? And I think that's where my interviews have changed and become so much more passionate and exciting. And I don't know, I invite people to really share parts of themselves that maybe they haven't shared before, which is it's beautiful to experience.
You do a really good job at it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You really do. Well, it's a perfect moment to I have a couple of really important questions, but it seems poignant to ask you the very thing that you asked me. What do you want to do? How do you want to impact the world with this? What did you want from healing, right?
Mm. Ooh, that's a good question. It's so funny, like hearing the questions that I shared with people back on myself is so, it brings it full circle because it's like every single time I'm asking people like these questions, like I'm thinking about my own responses based on their answers, but I'm never like thinking about them myself. So it gives me a time to sort of experience that in another light. But I just want to be someone who is known for helping others, you know, being a not just a quote unquote healer, because there's so many people identifying as healers, and there are so many healers, but somehow standing out and showing people how to do this feed versus fight nourishment and being not just a coach, but a friend that's guiding you through this. Like, I don't want to be a guru. I don't want to be someone that is known as this enzyme girl. Like, I don't want to be that. I want to be someone that is guiding people to the path of healing by allowing themselves to find it. You know, not having somebody tell you, oh, you need to do this liver cleanse. Oh, well, you need to do this. Oh, well, this is what you're still experiencing. Allowing them to feel it themselves. You know, I think that's where we're really identifying and uncovering our own inner healer and helping them experience it so that then when they get through a process of feeling like, oh, wow, my whole life changed, it's not just like, oh, well, Maddie helped me change my life. It's like, Maddie helped me show myself how to heal myself. You know, I think that's the important thing. And that's what Daniel's done for me. Daniel has done that exactly for me. He's helped me by, of course, answering my 1.5 million questions all the time, helped me really identify that I can heal anything in my body just based on my own wisdom and my own inner healing, and that everything is fixable in a lot of ways. And the moment we don't think it's fixable is the moment that we become rigid in our thinking. And I think that's the true type of mentor and coach that I desire to be, is someone that shows you how to do this yourself in a light way without pushing more products down your throat. Oh, we'll buy this. Oh, we'll buy this. It's like, I'm only ever going to share something if it's impacted my life and I've experienced it and I know how to explain what's going on. You know, with enzymes, there is so much science behind this. Like, enzymatic function is incredibly important for every single metabolic reaction in the body. Everything. If you didn't have enzymes, you would not be alive. And it's like,
yeah,
it just makes sense. So helping people do their own research and come to me with new things, like that's what I'm looking for is clients that are researching on their own. Oh, hey, I found this new website, or I found this new book on enzymes. And it's like, that's where I want people to go, so then they can experience their own healing in that way.
That's brilliant. Like Daniel says, helping people find their own self-authority.
Totally.
I think that's really important. In that way, we're just guiding. We're not even teaching in that way, right? Helping people come to their own sense of being their own teacher.
Totally.